What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today's video is about everyday racism and white supremacy, right? The kind that doesn't always come with hoods or slurs but still cuts deep. So this old white lady, she's in a store, she's just shopping, and she sees these black guys shopping as well, and literally asks them if they were trying to rob the store. Why would she ask that? I mean, that kind of thinking, that automatic suspicion, that is what we mean when we talk about social profiling. Let's take a look.
You said, was we gonna do what?
Rob the store.
You asked us, was we gonna rob the store? Why?
Aren't you going to do it now?
What, rob
I
the
just
store?
wanted you to wait until I got my stuff so I wouldn't have to be a...
Having white privilege does not mean that you've never suffered. It doesn't mean that you've floated through life on a cotton candy unicorn cloud of rainbows and sprinkles. It doesn't mean that you've never experienced abuse and poverty, indignation, betrayal, and all these horrible, terrible, difficult things. What it means, very simply, is that your life has not been made harder because of your skin tone, like it has been for black and brown people. Because we live in a racist, just inherently racist system, it is harder for them because of their skin tone than it is for us white people. That is all that means. You can still experience hard things and poverty. You can still have a really shitty life as a white person. That's not what white privilege means. It just means that it's not been shitty because you're white.
There are three things that don't bother me as a white person. Number one, when a person of color says they don't trust white people, I absolutely understand the sentiment and am not offended if you don't immediately trust all white people on account of white people colonizing the world and then setting up a system of slavery and not taking accountability for any of the racism. I think this is a totally valid statement. It doesn't bother me because I don't feel like I contribute to the system in this way. Number two, when a person of color says they don't date white people. Again, I'm not offended by this because even if the white person that you're seeing is really cool, their parents or their family might be crazy. They might be uber racist or come from a really strange environment and family that, quite frankly, you don't want to be involved with. That doesn't make you feel safe, which makes sense. And number three, when people of color don't follow white feminist accounts. I understand there's a lot of white feminists who don't talk about intersectionality at all, or queer white feminists who don't talk about intersectionality, which is bizarre because every single struggle is so intimately connected. If any of these things bother you, you are taking this way too personally, and I recommend that you do the work to deconstruct what's going on. Because not everything's about you, and there's a racist system in place that you are probably contributing to.
How can someone be a white supremacist and not even know it? Easy. Most are. White supremacy isn't just swastikas and burning crosses. It's the belief, conscious or not, that whiteness is the default, the standard, the norm, and most white folks were trained to see it that way from birth, even if no one sat them down and said, being white is better. Think about these issues. If you think of black names as unprofessional, if you get uncomfortable when race is mentioned, if you've said, well, I didn't own slaves, if you think racism is about bad intentions instead of systems, if you see injustice and your first worry is tone, not harm, that's not neutrality. That's how white supremacy survives. But here's the deal. It's not about shame. It's about honesty. If you've inherited a broken system, and we all did, your job is not to feel guilty. Your job is to notice, unlearn, and stop passing it on. So before you say, I'm not one of those white people, ask yourself, am I holding up this system without even realizing it?
You say that all whites are racist. Can you expound on that, please?
Any white person who was born, raised, and schooled in the United States of America, if you aren't a racist, you're a miracle. Either that or you decided to educate yourself. Because education in this country is about white is right, brown's all right, black's got to stand back. Yellow's mellow, but whites, we educate in a way that says that white males have done all the adventures, have made all the adventures, have done all the discovering, have made everything that is good and has been accomplished according to social studies, which is actually anti-social studies, by white males. It's a lie. But we do that in order to maintain the myth of white superiority.
Jane did a really good job here. Let's talk about her point on if you're not racist, it's a miracle. If it sounds crazy to you, it's not. in the United States, we learn through a white male perspective. The history books that we read are written by white men. The media that we consume have been written by white men, is currently controlled by white men. It affects our subconscious thinking. Because Americans are forced to view the world through a white male perspective, we are consuming the white male's perspective on the truth. We're not consuming the neutral truth. Another special thing about what Jane presented here is this lack of blame. She's not blaming the average American. She's not saying, oh, hey, you're a bad person. She's simply explaining how unbelievably unlikely it would be to be American, raised in the American school system, and to not be subconsciously racist. It's just really, really like virtually impossible. It would be miraculous. Remember that word she used, miracle. We're raised by the white male perspective. It will still affect all of us. By acknowledging the effect, whether we're purposely racist or not, we're able to address it thoughtfully.
So you probably look at a guy like me and say, you're the whitest white man in America. You don't know anything about racism. And I'd say, you're absolutely right. I don't know anything about racism. And I wish more people who look like me would just acknowledge that. It's one thing to experience racism vicariously. It's another thing to live it on a daily basis. I have a very good friend. We graduated law school together, and we ended up getting our first jobs out of law school at the same big downtown DC law firm. On paper, we were the same person, but in reality, he was black and I was white. And every night when we worked late, we had to leave together because if he left alone, he'd stand on the street and no cabs would pick him up. So I'd go with him, and I'd make sure he got the first cab that stopped. It was wrong that my friend had to deal with that kind of a prejudicial burden on a daily basis. He'd say that was one of the easier issues to deal with as a black man in America, but it was wrong. And you know what? As a white man, I've never had to experience that. So white people, let's stop pretending. We don't understand racism.
Did y'all see the video of a black man? He was recording the sinkhole in the road, showing that the road was cracking and sinking and the water was coming through. And a white man was driving by and he tried to warn him, like, don't go down there. And the white man flicked him off and continued to go down the road, and then his truck got stuck and it was dropping and it cracked a little more. And then when the black man was like, I tried to warn you about going there, and the white man said, well, you know, when I see a fella of your color, well, now you have to go with your insurance company on your truck, so I hope you have another car. Racism is expensive. It's the fact that you felt comfortable enough to say that out loud to him. Granted, he did not engage with that part of the conversation. He was just like, well, I was just trying to warn you. I just didn't want your truck to get stuck or whatever. But to tell that man, when I see a fella of your color, I tend to not pay you any mind, basically.
And it's wild because this kind of stuff happens every single day, right? Black folks can't even exist without being seen as a threat. Like that other story where the black man warned the white driver not to go through the road that was bad, and then he ignored him and said, oh, I don't usually listen to people with your skin color, right? And then he, eventually got stuck in the ditch or something. And I mean, that's not just ignorance, that is racism disguised as arrogance, right? Anyways, credit goes to the original creators of these clips. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been profiled or wrongly judged like this? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep the conversations going, and as usual, I'll see you on my next one.